The first time Rebecca Thompson sabotaged my presentation in front of the entire company. I just stood there, my carefully prepared slides showing corrupted data, wondering how my team could still be taking her side. The fluorescent lights of the conference room felt harsh against my skin as I watched our CEO rush to comfort Rebecca while shooting accusatory glances in my direction. I'm Sarah Chen, and I've spent 3 years being the difficult project manager at Cloudscale Technologies. Not because I've done anything wrong. I have a computer science degree, multiple project management certifications, and a track record of successful deployments. No, my crime was simply existing in the shadow of my brother Michael's wife, Rebecca, our seemingly perfect director of sales. You incompetent little. Rebecca hissed, her French manicured finger jabbing toward my laptop. How dare you suggest I tampered with your project data? My hands trembled as I tried to access my backup files. I have the original database logs. Someone accessed them using your credentials. Sarah, stop making accusations. My team lead, Linda, snapped, placing a protective hand on Rebecca's shoulder. Why do you always have to create drama during important meetings? The familiar tightness in my chest intensified as I looked around the glass-walled conference room. My colleagues stared at their laptops, suddenly fascinated by their screens. Michael, our head of engineering, positioned himself between me and his precious wife, his disapproval evident in his rigid posture. I have proof, I said, my voice barely carrying over the hum of the HVAC system. Rebecca's laugh cut through the tension like broken glass. Show it then. Go ahead. Show everyone your proof. My fingers shook as I pulled up my terminal window, but before I could access the log files, Linda snatched my laptop away. That's enough, she shouted, closing it with a sharp snap. I won't let you disrupt another quarterly review with your paranoid accusations. Rebecca has done nothing but try to mentor you, and this is how you repay her? Mentor me? A bitter laugh escaped my throat. By corrupting my project data? By telling everyone I'm emotionally unstable? Well, you're certainly acting unstable right now, Rebecca said smoothly, adjusting her Hermes scarf as she leaned back in her ergonomic chair. Maybe you should talk to her about stress management. Michael finally spoke up, his voice carrying the weight of fraternal disappointment. Sarah, please. You're embarrassing yourself. That's when Rebecca played her masterstroke. With practiced precision, she pulled up her own presentation, displaying a series of emails supposedly from me, emails showing erratic behavior and threatening messages. Right there, in front of the entire product team. And nobody, not one person, questioned their authenticity. I need to point out, Linda said, shaking her head, that this kind of behavior is exactly why we're concerned about your stability. Rebecca's leading our biggest client launch, for God's sake. She doesn't need this kind of disruption. The announcement hit me like a system crash. Of course, she'd gotten the client launch I'd been working toward for months. Of course, she'd choose this moment to reveal it. Congratulations, I managed to say, gathering my papers with trembling hands. I'm sure you'll do a fantastic job. Sarah, wait. My father's voice crackled through my phone as he joined the video call. As Cloudscale's senior advisor, David Chen had been watching the whole meeting remotely. But even he remained painfully neutral, his concern carefully diplomatic. Let her go, I heard Rebecca say through the conference call speaker. She'll cool down eventually. She always does. I grabbed my phone and backup drive from the conference table, my heels clicking against the polished concrete floors of our open office space. As I rushed past the rows of standing desks and collaboration pods, I caught snippets of whispered conversations and saw coworkers quickly minimizing their chat windows. The familiar tension headache was building as I punched the elevator button. Through the glass walls, I could see Janet from UX asking if I was okay. She's fine, Linda's voice carried across the office floor. Just another one of her episodes. Rebecca's the one we should be worried about. I slammed the elevator button again, blinking back tears that threatened to ruin my carefully applied makeup. The same thought kept running through my mind. This time would be different. This time, I wouldn't just let the incident report get buried in HR's system. My phone buzzed with a Slack message from Michael. "You need to apologize to Rebecca. She's leading the Thompson account now. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I shoved my phone into my blazer pocket and stepped into the elevator, my reflection in the mirror showing a woman I barely recognized anymore. In the lobby's security camera, I could see them all still gathered around Rebecca in the conference room, probably discussing how to handle my outburst. The anger building inside me felt different from the usual mix of hurt and resignation. For the first time, I wasn't just wounded. I was ready to fight back. As I walked through the steel and glass entrance of our downtown Seattle office, I made a decision. I wouldn't just disappear into a pile of NDAs this time. I wouldn't just accept another performance improvement plan. Rebecca wanted to paint me as unstable? Fine. I'd show her what happened when you pushed a software engineer too far. Later that afternoon, Sarah's apartment. I pulled into the parking garage of my Lake Union apartment complex and grabbed my laptop, my mind already racing through potential SQL queries. Opening my secure browser, I searched for tech industry whistleblower forums. The first result caught my eye: TechTruth.io anonymous platform for industry misconduct. Current active thread: systematic harassment at Seattle startups. The digital clock on my monitor read 6:15 p.m. I took a deep breath and clicked Create Account. For the first time that day, I felt a glimmer of hope. The forum's interface glowed with a soft blue light as I scrolled through dozens of testimonials. Each post revealed patterns of abuse and manipulation that felt hauntingly familiar. Using a VPN and a newly created email, I carefully drafted my first post. Would anyone be willing to share their experiences with Rebecca Thompson? I typed, my fingers hesitating over the keyboard. Particularly during her time at Cloudscale Technologies or Sterling Industries. My cursor blinked for what felt like eternity. Then, suddenly, responses began flooding in. Wait. Rebecca Thompson from Sterling's sales department. A user named TechJustice2023 replied. The one who got promoted after the database incident. My heart started racing. I'm a current Cloudscale employee, I wrote back. Today, she compromised my project data and then accused me of being unstable when I tried to prove it. A private message popped up from a user called Data Phoenix. I was at Sterling when Rebecca ruined 3 careers with fabricated security breaches. I still have the original server logs. Want to compare timestamps? The same thing happened at Maxwell Corp. Another user, Code Warrior, added to the thread. She's been doing this for years. Later that evening, online meeting. 20 minutes later, I found myself in a secure video chat with Maria Rodriguez, a former Sterling Industries developer, and James Park, a tech ethics advocate who'd been tracking patterns of workplace harassment in the industry. Let me share my screen, Maria said, her voice tight with controlled anger. Look at these log files from 3 years ago. See the access patterns. The timestamped manipulations? I leaned closer to my monitor, my hands gripping my desk as I recognized the familiar signs. That's exactly what happened to my data today. Classic Rebecca, James commented, his fingers flying across his keyboard. She always follows the same pattern. Access the data through a compromised admin account, alter the timestamps, then gaslight the target into questioning their own sanity. My phone buzzed with another Slack notification. A message from Michael. Mom's having a breakdown because of you. Hope you're happy with what you've started. Maria glanced at her own screen and scowled. Let me guess. They're already trying the family guilt trip. I nodded, minimizing the Slack window. You know what's interesting? James said, sharing a new window in our chat. People like Rebecca leave digital fingerprints everywhere. Look at this pattern of GitHub commits and Jira tickets at her previous companies. What do you mean? I mean, he highlighted a series of entries. We should start mapping her digital footprint. Social media, code repositories, previous projects. When you're dealing with tech, everything leaves a trace. Maria's eyes lit up. That's literally what I do now. I work in digital forensics. Give me an hour with these logs. I don't know. I hesitated, my cursor hovering over the log files. Wouldn't analyzing company data breach our NDAs? Did she think about legal agreements when she corrupted your project data? Maria asked quietly. When she tried to destroy your career. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a notification. Someone had tagged me in a LinkedIn post. It was Rebecca, writing about an unfortunate incident of data manipulation at today's meeting and how she was deeply concerned about the mental health of certain team members during our crucial product launch phase. Oh, hell no! Maria's voice crackled through my speakers. She's trying to control the narrative. Look at the comments. She's already got the tech community taking sides. I think I found something, James said, his voice tense with discovery. Rebecca worked at Sterling Industries in their enterprise sales division, right? I nodded, watching as he shared his screen. Well, according to their SEC filings from 3 years ago, there was a major internal investigation. Several developers reported systematic data tampering and false security breach allegations. No names were mentioned, but check out these timestamps. My hands started shaking as I cross-referenced the dates with the log files. That's exactly the same pattern she used today. Sarah, Maria leaned toward her camera, her expression intense. You're not crazy. You're not unstable. You're being systematically targeted. And we can prove it. But my team will either wake up to the truth or show their complicity, James finished. Either way, you'll be free. Just then, my laptop pinged with a new email. My heart stopped when I saw the sender, dv.archives@sterling-industries.com. Subject: Rebecca Thompson's System Access Logs 2019 to 2022. Maria's voice was steady in my headphones. Open it. With trembling fingers, I clicked the email. As I read, my eyes widened, scanning through pages of meticulously documented system logs and change histories. Well? James asked, his face serious in the video window. I looked up at my new allies, a strange calm settling over me. She didn't just corrupt my data. According to these logs, she's done this at least 7 times. 3 at Sterling, 2 at Maxwell Corp, and now twice at Cloudscale. And their former security admin kept everything. Then what are we waiting for? Maria grinned, her fingers already flying across her keyboard. Let's start building the case. James, can you help us format this into an official report? Already on it, he replied. I've got templates from previous tech harassment cases. We should probably. A new notification popped up on my screen. Michael was requesting an emergency video call. Record everything, James said quickly, helping me set up screen capture software. And remember, stay calm. They're probably trying to damage control. I accepted the call. Michael appeared on my screen, his usual pristine appearance slightly disheveled, his home office lighting casting harsh shadows on his face. What the hell are you doing, Sarah? He demanded without preamble. Rebecca's just showed me some concerning Slack threads. Can you be more specific? I asked, keeping my voice steady as Maria and James watched silently from another window. Which Slack threads exactly? Don't play dumb. Michael's voice crackled through my speakers. You've been collecting internal data logs, going through old repositories. What are you trying to prove? I think you know exactly what I'm trying to prove, I said, sharing my screen to display the Sterling Industries logs. Would you like to see what your wife did before she married you? His eyes narrowed as he scanned the timestamps. Where did you get these? The same place I got this, I said, opening another window showing Rebecca's systematic pattern of data manipulation. Her perfectly crafted digital fingerprints laid bare in lines of code. Michael's face went pale. This is corporate espionage. You could go to jail for this. Actually, James unmuted himself. This is evidence gathering of systematic workplace harassment. Very different legal framework, Mr. Chen. Who are these people? Michael demanded. Sarah, what kind of trouble are you causing now? These are my friends, I said, feeling stronger with each word. The only people who actually looked at the evidence when your wife destroyed my project data. Destroyed? Michael laughed, but there was a note of uncertainty in his voice. Now you're being dramatic. Maria shared her screen, displaying a pattern analysis of system access logs. Rebecca's digital signature was unmistakable across multiple incidents. This is your wife's greatest hits, I said. Want to see the rest? We have quite a collection. Where did you get these logs? His voice shook slightly. Turns out I'm not the first person Rebecca's tried to destroy, I said, pulling up more documentation. Just the latest in a long line of talented developers who got in her way. I'm going to be the last. Are you threatening my wife? No, I said, opening another window, showing a draft of our report to the Ethics Committee. I'm promising to expose the truth. Unless what? I took a deep breath, feeling James and Maria's silent support. Unless she publicly admits what she did to me and the others. Unless she steps down from the Thompson projects and gets help for whatever makes her need to destroy other people's careers. You're trying to blackmail us. Michael's face reddened on my screen. I'm trying to stop her before she ruins anyone else's career, I corrected, including the new developers on her team. That hit home. I saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes as he glanced at another monitor, probably reviewing the evidence himself. Think about it, Michael, Maria added softly. What happens when the junior developers start outperforming her? When they create better solutions than she can take credit for? What happens to their careers? Get out of this call, Michael said, but his voice lacked its usual authority. All of you, disconnect now. We're on my secure server, James reminded him. But you can leave whenever you want. Just remember, Sarah's not backing down this time. As Michael abruptly ended the call, my screen lit up with a new notification. Someone had shared Rebecca's LinkedIn post in TechCrunch's internal forum, sparking a heated discussion about toxic workplace culture in startups. Perfect timing, James said, a grim smile forming on his face. Ready to release the first batch of evidence? I hesitated, staring at the folder of carefully documented logs. What if this backfires? That's why we have a strategy, Maria reminded me. We start with the irrefutable data. Just enough to make people question her perfect tech executive image. My hands trembled slightly as I typed my response to Rebecca's post. Interesting how these stability concerns emerged right after I discovered these system logs. I attached a sanitized version of the access records. And now we wait, James said, monitoring the network traffic. We didn't have to wait long. Within minutes, my screen exploded with notifications. Rebecca was calling repeatedly through every possible platform: Slack, Teams, phone. My email inbox filled with urgent messages from Linda and the HR department. But among the corporate chaos, other messages started appearing. She did the exact same thing to my code repository at Sterling. I lost my senior dev position because of her security concerns. I have the original commits. Check your DMs. I have more logs from Maxwell Corp. I looked at my new allies, tears threatening to blur my vision of the chat window. I can't believe this is really happening. Believe it, Maria said, her video feed showing her fierce determination. The truth is spreading through the network, and there's nothing she can do to stop it. Just then, an urgent email arrived from Rebecca's CloudScale address. Subject line: "We need to talk. Now." Priority: highest. James' grim smile reflected in his webcam. "Let the real system test begin." "Don't open it yet," James warned as I moved my cursor toward the email. "Let it sit in the queue." We were now in Maria's digital forensics workspace, watching the situation unfold across multiple tech community platforms. The techtruth.io thread had spawned a full-blown movement. #TechAccountability was trending on Twitter. Another one from Sterling Industries, Maria announced, analyzing data on one of her screens. Their former security lead says Rebecca threatened to report a breach under his credentials if he didn't lose certain access logs. My phone buzzed again. Rebecca's third email in an hour. Subject: "You're making a career-ending mistake." "Now can I respond?" I asked, watching the notification counter climb. "Wait for it." James checked his system clock. "Your brother should be getting an alert from the ethics committee right about now." Right on cue, my screen lit up with an incoming video call request from Michael. "Put it on speaker," Maria whispered, activating her recording software. "The ethics committee?" Michael's voice was strained, his home office looking darker than before. "Really, Sarah? You escalated this to the board." "I'm following proper corporate protocols," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "How's Rebecca handling the data audit?" "She's having a meltdown. The Thompson client is threatening to pull their contract." "Is that what you want? To destroy the whole project?" "That's rich," Maria cut in. "Using $1 million contract as a shield this time." "Stay out of this," Michael snapped. "Sarah, you need to retract your evidence submission to the committee. Now. Or what? Or the company will sue you for corporate espionage." "Rebecca's already talking to legal about a cease and desist." I laughed, surprising myself. "Perfect. Let's get everything on record in an official hearing." I'm sure Sterling Industries' former security team would love to testify about their logs. Silence filled the video call. "Tell Rebecca to check her email," I said. "I'm about to respond to her messages." I hung up and opened my encrypted email client, pulling up Rebecca's increasingly desperate messages. "Keep it professional," James advised. "Stick to the data." I typed, "Dear Rebecca, I'm prepared to discuss this situation in front of the ethics committee. Feel free to bring legal. I'll bring my forensics team, along with complete documentation from your previous workplaces. Your choice. Best regards, Sarah." "Send it," Maria said, her fingers flying over her keyboard as she compiled more evidence. As soon as I hit send, a new notification popped up. Someone had shared a video in the techtruth.io thread. "Oh my God," I whispered as we watched. It was security camera footage from Sterling Industries' server room, showing Rebecca accessing a restricted terminal late at night, then reporting a security breach the next morning. "The timestamp," James pointed out. "This was 2 days before their senior developer's unauthorized access incident." "Who leaked this?" I asked, watching the crystal-clear footage again. "Anonymous," Maria said. "But the message says former security admin. Ready to testify under oath." My phone lit up with a text from my mother. "Your father's having anxiety attacks over this scandal. I hope you're satisfied destroying our family's reputation in the tech community." Before I could respond, another notification appeared. Rebecca had started a LinkedIn Live session. "Play it," I said, my throat tight. Rebecca's perfectly composed face filled my screen, her home office backdrop meticulously arranged. "I need to address the malicious accusations being spread about me," she began, her voice trembling just enough to seem vulnerable. "I'm deeply hurt that my sister-in-law, who clearly needs professional help, has chosen to attack me during our crucial client launch phase. I've only ever tried to mentor her." Is she serious?" Maria muttered, rapidly documenting everything. "And I forgive her, because that's what family does. I just pray she gets the support she needs to handle the pressures of enterprise development." "Cut the stream," I said. "I can't watch anymore." "Wait." James held up his hand. "Look at the comments." Comments were flooding in, but not the supportive ones Rebecca usually cultivated on her tech leadership posts. "Where's your explanation for the Sterling Industries server logs? I worked with you at Maxwell Corp. Should I share our Git histories too?" Playing the victim while the evidence is right there in the commit logs. Classic gaslighting in tech leadership. Rebecca abruptly ended the live stream. "She's losing control," James said. "This isn't following her usual script." My laptop pinged with a new email. Unknown sender. Subject line: Rebecca Thompson's history at Maxwell Corp. Inside was a detailed technical analysis from her former team lead, with repository logs showing a pattern of code manipulation and false security flags going back years. "This is bigger than we thought," Maria said quietly. "Forward it to Michael," James suggested. "He needs to see who he really married from a technical perspective." As I hit forward, another message came through, this time from my father. "Can we meet?" "Just us." "Secure channel." I showed the others my screen. "Go for it," Maria said. "But use our encrypted conference line and keep everything recorded." I messaged back. "Video call in 30 minutes. Sending you a secure link." His response came quickly. "I'll be there." No mom. No Rebecca. I have questions about the Sterling logs. I checked my secure chat applications, hands trembling slightly. What do I say to him? "The truth," James said simply. "Just the data. We'll stay on backup channels if you need us," Maria added, sending me a series of pre-analyzed log files. Rebecca's latest email arrived. "You have no idea what you've done to this company." I smiled grimly at my screen. For once, she was right about something. She really had no idea what legitimate security protocols could uncover. Video call, evening. My father's face appeared on my screen, looking older than I remembered. The dark circles under his eyes matched the worry lines creasing his forehead. His home office setup, once a point of pride, looked disheveled. Multiple monitors displaying various code repositories and system logs. "Your mother doesn't know I'm on this call," he said quietly, adjusting his webcam. I figured. I pulled up the Sterling Industries logs on my second monitor. "How bad is it at the company?" "Rebecca's threatening to sue for defamation. Claims it's causing her panic attacks." He paused. Michael's moved his workstation to a different floor. That was new. "They're having problems?" Dad nodded, his eyes scanning something off-screen. He found more logs. Old ones. From before they were married. His voice cracked. "She did something similar to his previous team lead. Made it look like she was stealing proprietary code. And you're just now auditing the logs?" I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. "Sarah, His video feed froze momentarily. When it stabilized, he was looking at his phone. "It's Mom." "Show me," I said. He turned his phone toward his webcam. The messages made my stomach turn. "Where are you?" "Rebecca's meeting with legal. If you're talking to Sarah, I'll never forgive you. The board might shut down the whole project because of this." "She's lying," I said flatly. "About the legal meeting. Rebecca's been active on our project management system all morning. reassigning her tasks to junior developers. Dad's eyes widened. What? I shared my screen, showing Rebecca's steady stream of Jira updates from the past hour, transferring ownership, changing access permissions, downloading project histories. The timestamps told their own story. Oh God, Dad whispered. Your mother's been. She's been telling the board about emergency legal consultations all morning. My monitor pinged with a notification. Maria had sent a link to a new post on techtruth.io. Someone had shared screenshots of Rebecca's project management activity alongside an internal memo about an urgent legal meeting. It's all falling apart, isn't it? Dad said, his voice hollow. The logs don't lie, Dad. They never did. A new video window popped up. Michael was requesting to join our call. I tracked Dad's IP address, he said as soon as he connected, his face ashen in his webcam feed. We need to talk. About what? I asked. About how Rebecca sabotaged your old team lead. Or about how she's been manipulating system logs for years. About how I'm submitting my resignation to the ethics committee. The words hung in the digital silence. What? Dad and I spoke simultaneously. Michael opened a terminal window, sharing his screen. Remember Karen, my former team lead? The one who supposedly tried to steal our codebase. He ran a series of commands, pulling up archived repository logs. Rebecca's digital fingerprints were everywhere. Timestamps, access patterns, modified commit histories, all meticulously documented in the system. Where did you get these logs? I whispered. Karen sent them to me. Said she's been keeping them encrypted for years, feeling guilty. Michael's hands were shaking visibly on his keyboard. There's more. So much more. God, I've been such a fool. Dad pushed his glasses up, squinting at the code scrolling past. Your mother. She's going to have to face reality. My laptop pinged with a notification. Rebecca had just posted on LinkedIn again, this time with a screenshot of a legal letter. Play it, Michael said. Rebecca's carefully composed face appeared in the post. I'm here to announce that I'm filing for an emergency injunction against my sister-in-law, who has launched a malicious campaign of corporate espionage against me and cloud-scale technologies. Comments were already flooding in. But your active Jira tickets show you're still working? What about the Sterling Industries server logs? The Git commit histories don't lie. The post was hastily deleted. She doesn't know I'm on this call, Michael said, his voice tight. She thinks I'm in an emergency meeting with legal, backing her injunction request. What are you going to do? I asked, watching the notification count climb on my screen. I've already done it. Submitted all the evidence to the ethics committee this morning. Every log, every commit, every manipulated timestamp. Their forensics team has everything. Dad's video feed showed him receiving another call. Mom was trying to connect. Answer it, I said. Keep recording. David. Where are you? Rebecca's in emergency meetings with the board. The whole project is. No, she's not. Dad cut in, his voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. I'm looking at her system activity right now. She's been modifying project permissions for the last hour. Dead silence. Linda, I said, keeping my voice steady. The ethics committee has access to all our logs. Would you like to explain why you've been spreading false information about emergency board meetings? You're recording this call, aren't you? Mom's voice shook. Everything's logged, Mom. It always has been. 2 weeks later, ethics committee hearing. The glass-walled conference room on CloudScale's top floor was packed with executives as I walked in. Maria and James flanking me with their laptops. Local tech journalists were watching via secure video feed. This had become too big to contain. Ms. Chen, a reporter messaged in the chat. How do you respond to Rebecca Thompson's claim that she's taking a leave of absence for stress-related health issues? No comment, James replied professionally, helping me navigate through the crowded room. Inside, Michael sat at the developer's table, looking exhausted. She's trying to claim emotional distress, he said as we approached. Her lawyer says the pressure of the Thompson projects affected her judgment. Convenient timing, Maria muttered, setting up her forensics presentation. The elevator doors opened, and my parents walked in. Mom's face was drawn, her usual perfect Zoom background replaced by reality. Dad gave me a small nod. "Can we sit with you?" he asked quietly. Before I could answer, Rebecca's lawyer hurried over. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, a word, please. Your testimony about the project deadlines and stress levels will be crucial." Mom straightened in her chair. "Actually, we're here to support Sarah." The lawyer blinked. "But Ms. Thompson said you'd vouch for the project's demanding timeline." "We've done enough covering up," Dad said, pulling up his own terminal. "Too much." The doors opened again. Rebecca walked in, wearing a conservative business suit, clutching a tablet. Her performance was perfect, except for the flash of panic in her eyes when she saw the array of monitors displaying her digital trail. "All rise," the board secretary announced as the ethics committee members entered. My phone vibrated. A message from Karen, Michael's former team lead. "Just submitted the final logs. Complete access history from 2019 to 2022. Good luck." The proceedings began with Rebecca's lawyer painting a picture of a stressed executive pushed too far by project demands. Then came the forensics team's turn. "I'd like to call our first witness." The lead investigator stood. "Sarah Chen, please walk us through these system logs." I approached the podium, my hands steady as I pulled up the evidence. Looking directly at Rebecca, I began walking through years of digital manipulation, fabricated security breaches, and calculated career sabotage. "And do you have proof that these log alterations were deliberate?" I nodded. "We have access patterns, timestamp modifications, and repository histories from 3 different companies, plus 16 other developers ready to testify to similar experiences." Rebecca's lawyer jumped up. "Objection. My client was under extreme pressure during these project cycles, which she documented only after being caught," the investigator countered. "We have evidence of premeditation spanning multiple platforms and years." Final moments of the hearing. Rebecca stood suddenly, her tablet clattering to the table. "These logs are manipulated. They're all conspiring against me." "Ms. Thompson," the committee chair warned, "control yourself, or—" "I built this project from nothing." Rebecca's voice cracked through the conference room speakers. "Every line of code, every client relationship." "About that," Michael's voice cut through as he shared his screen. "We have repository histories proving otherwise." The room erupted in murmurs as commit logs and pull requests filled the displays, showing the true authors of every feature Rebecca had claimed. "Fine," she said, her voice suddenly cold and calculated. "You want the truth? Here's the truth. Every single one of them was weak, technically inferior. I just exposed what was already there." Her lawyer tried to mute her video feed, but Rebecca continued. "You think I'm the villain?" She pointed at her screen where I sat. "Look at her. She turned my whole team against me. She destroyed my career." "No," my mother's voice rang clear through the conference call. "Your own logs did that, Rebecca." Rebecca spun in her chair. "You're taking her side. After everything I did for this company?" "You mean after everything you did to this company," Dad corrected, pulling up more technical documentation. "Order." The committee chair unmuted his microphone. "Ms. Thompson, this outburst will not help your case." 6 months later, Tech Truth Conference. "Ready?" Maria adjusted the microphone on my blazer as we prepared for the keynote speech. The conference hall was packed with tech professionals eager to hear about our newly launched Ethics in Tech initiative. In just 6 months, our whistleblower platform had grown from a simple forum thread into a full-fledged nonprofit organization. "Remember when you could barely speak up in code reviews?" James teased, checking our presentation slides. As our organization's legal advisor, he'd helped dozens of developers document and report similar cases of technical sabotage. My phone buzzed with a message from Michael. Ethics Committee just denied Rebecca's final appeal. Her certifications are permanently revoked. 5 minutes to stage, the conference coordinator called out. Mom and Dad arrived, carrying boxes of our new technical documentation guide about identifying and preventing code manipulation. They'd become unexpected allies in the cause, with Mom especially throwing herself into developing security training programs. "Look what came," Mom said, holding up her tablet. "The board approved your proposal for mandatory code review transparency." "Good," I said, meaning it. "That means no one else will have to go through what we did." "Not on our watch," Dad agreed, showing me his latest security audit tool. The conference doors opened, and Karen walked in with her new development team. She'd been promoted to CTO after the investigation revealed her original architecture designs that Rebecca had claimed as her own. "Sorry we're late," she said, setting up her laptop. The junior devs had some amazing additions to the ethics compliance module. Michael appeared behind them, carrying his own presentation materials. "And wait until you see the automated audit tools they've built." "Language in the codebase," Mom scolded playfully, but she was smiling. The conference organizer approached with James, who'd become the face of our technical ethics campaign after that first explosive repository analysis. "We'll start with the platform launch," James said, "then showcase the impact your case has had. We've got developers lined up to share their stories, including—" "Me," a familiar voice said. I turned to see Karen's former junior developer, now leading her own team. She'd gone from nearly losing her career to becoming a principal engineer, helping others protect their work and reputations. "The major tech blogs are covering this live," Maria added. "Your message about code integrity is going to reach developers worldwide." "Nervous?" James asked quietly. I looked around at my support system, my real family, both blood and chosen, united by lines of code and truth. Not anymore. The morning sun caught the edge of my tablet screen as I reviewed the quarterly reports. Even at this early hour, my WhatsApp was already buzzing with notifications. I knew without looking who it would be. Only one person would dare to message me at 7 am about my father's estate, Victoria. I continued analyzing the market trends, trying to focus on the familiar comfort of numbers and charts. My father had taught me that data never lies, even when people do. The roses on my balcony swayed gently in the morning breeze, my one concession to the gardening passion I'd inherited from him. These weren't the expansive gardens of his estate, but they were mine, blooming defiantly 20 stories above Manhattan. The message notification blinked again. Victoria's text dripped with artificial sweetness. "Still buried in those boring financial reports, I see. Some things never change." I set my tablet down, my hand brushing against the small potted rose bush Dad had given me when I got my MBA. "Life's not just about the numbers, Sarah," he'd said. "Sometimes the most valuable growth happens in the smallest spaces." The white roses were blooming now, despite the city's harsh environment. "I know why you're messaging," I typed back, keeping my tone professional. "The reading of the will is tomorrow." My father's legacy isn't something to be discussed over WhatsApp. Victoria's response was immediate, accompanied by photos of the estate's interior. Your father's legacy needs updating. James and I have already chosen new furnishings. That dated decor has to go. The sight of their planned renovations made my stomach turn. Every piece of furniture she wanted to replace had a story. The mahogany desk where Dad had taught me about investment strategies. The leather armchair where he'd nursed me through my first stock market loss. The estate isn't yours to renovate, I replied, my finger hovering over the block button. But Dad's voice echoed in my memory. Sometimes the best strategy is to let your opponent show their hand. Victoria sent another message, this one with a video tour of the garden. The landscapers are coming next week. All these old roses. Such a waste of space. We're thinking a modern Zen garden would be more appropriate. Time to say goodbye to Daddy's precious flowers. The pruning shears I used for my balcony roses suddenly felt heavy in my hand. I set them down carefully, remembering Dad's wisdom about patience and timing. He'd always said the markets were like his garden. Success came to those who knew when to act and when to wait. I picked up my phone and called the one person who would understand both the legal and emotional implications of what was unfolding. Emma. Victoria's making her moves earlier than we expected. Yes, she's exactly as aggressive as we anticipated. Can you come over? There's something about the will I need to discuss with you. My best friend's voice was firm and reassuring. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Don't respond to any more messages. Your father made sure all of this would play out exactly as it needs to. As I ended the call, my tablet chimed with a new email notification. The sender was unfamiliar, but the subject line made my heart skip. Time sensitive. Instructions from Robert Harrison. I noticed the attachment was dated 3 days before Dad's death. Well, Dad, I whispered, looking at my small urban garden. Looks like you left me one last investment strategy to execute. Sarah's apartment 30 minutes later. Emma arrived exactly on schedule, carrying her briefcase in one hand and a bottle of aged whiskey in the other. I thought we might need this, she said, holding up the bottle as she entered my apartment. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floors, a sound so different from Victoria's intrusive stride through Dad's garden in those surveillance videos. I was still at my desk, the mysterious email unopened on my tablet. The morning sun had shifted, casting long shadows across my home office, a space that felt both like a fortress and a confession booth these days. You haven't opened it yet. Emma nodded at my tablet, setting her briefcase down with a characteristic heavy thud. The sound reminded me of all the late nights we'd spent building cases together, from our law school days to now. I wanted to wait for you. I turned the tablet over, a gesture that felt heavier than it should. After what Victoria said about Michael helping them, Emma poured 2 generous measures of whiskey into my crystal tumblers, Dad's graduation gift, when I finished my MBA. Open it, Sarah. Your father was very specific about certain things being revealed at certain times. My head snapped up. What do you mean? She handed me a glass, the amber liquid catching the light. Open the email, Sarah. With steady fingers, steadier than I felt, I opened the attachment. Inside was a detailed PDF and an encrypted audio file. My dear Sarah, I read aloud, my father's voice echoing in my memory. If you're reading this, then someone has already moved on the company. Knowing human nature as I do, I'm guessing it's Victoria. She always did remind me of a hostile takeover, all promises and no substance. Emma raised her glass in a small salute. The encrypted file contains access codes to my private server. Inside, you'll find everything you need to protect what's yours. Remember what I taught you about market timing. Sometimes you have to let a stock fall to reveal its true value. Love, Dad. I looked up at Emma, who was already pulling out her laptop. You knew about this? I helped him set it up, she admitted, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Your father came to me 6 months ago, right after his diagnosis. He knew exactly how this would play out. The server access revealed a folder labeled Contingency. Inside was a trove of financial documents, surveillance photos, and email trails. One photo made my breath catch. Victoria meeting with someone in a shadowy corner of the financial district. Look at the timestamp, Emma pointed. This was taken 3 days before your father's death. My hands trembled as I picked up my glass. Is that Michael meeting with her? 3 weeks before your father died, Emma confirmed. But look at the next image. The second photo showed my brother leaving the meeting, his expression a mask of controlled rage. He was clutching what looked like a USB drive. He's been gathering evidence, Emma explained. Brought everything straight to your father. That's when Robert knew he had to accelerate the plan. But Victoria said Michael was helping them. Your brother's been playing a dangerous game, Sarah. Feeding them just enough information to keep them confident while helping your father document their attempted corporate takeover. Sarah's apartment, evening. I sank back in my chair, the weight of revelation heavy in my chest. The whiskey burned, but not as much as the truth. Why didn't he tell me? Because Victoria needed to show her hand first. Emma pulled out more documents from her briefcase. Tomorrow, when I read the will, Victoria and James will think they've won. The initial reading will grant them significant shares in Harrison Investments. What? I stood so quickly my whiskey glass tipped, the amber liquid spreading across the financial reports like a stain. Let me finish. Emma held up her hand. That's when the contingency kicks in. Your father set up a corporate governance trap, Sarah. The moment they accept the shares, they trigger a clause that reveals their attempted hostile takeover. Everything, the insider trading, the attempted bribery, the offshore accounts, becomes part of the public record. I stared at the evidence spread across my desk, understanding dawning like a market opening bell. He made them think they'd won, so they'd incriminate themselves. Exactly. Emma's smile was sharp as a margin call. The actual controlling interest goes to you, with a protected trust set up for Michael. Victoria and James get nothing except a very public SEC investigation. And tomorrow, she finished her whiskey. We watch them walk right into the trap they set for themselves. I picked up Dad's email again, running my fingers over his digital signature. Even from beyond the grave, he was teaching me, protecting me, showing me how to fight back. One more thing, Emma said, checking her phone. Michael wants to see you tonight. He has something else you need to know before tomorrow. I looked out my apartment window at the Manhattan skyline, thinking of my brother, of Victoria's smug messages, of all the pieces my father had carefully positioned like trades before a market shift. Tell him to come over. It's time for a family merger. Later that night, Michael arrived as the city lights were coming on, looking nothing like the polished investment banker who'd stood beside James at the funeral. His usually immaculate suit was creased, his eyes shadowed with the kind of exhaustion that comes from maintaining too many covers for too long. "You look terrible," I said, breaking the ice. "Yeah, well, playing double agent in corporate espionage isn't as glamorous as the movies make it seem." He attempted a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Can I come in?" "Sarah's apartment, late evening." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Emma had left an hour ago, but the evidence of our earlier discovery still cluttered my workspace. Financial documents mixing with surveillance photos like a strange corporate collage. "I see you found Dad's contingency plan," Michael said, nodding at the scattered papers. "Why didn't you tell me what you were doing?" The question came out sharper than I intended, analyst's precision cutting through sisterly concern. He collapsed into the chair, his banker's posture crumbling. "Because I needed to make it right. After everything with James, the way I handled your divorce. I was worse than a bad investment, Sarah. I was a liability." "You were my brother," I corrected. "You were supposed to be my safest investment." "I know." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a USB drive. "This is what Victoria offered me to testify that Dad wasn't a sound mind when he made his final corporate restructuring. $5 million in offshore accounts to betray my own sister." I stared at the drive, then at my brother. "But you didn't take it." "No, I took it straight to Dad." Michael's voice cracked. "You should have seen his face, Sarah. Not angry, just disappointed. Like watching a promising startup fail its IPO. The city hummed 20 stories below, a constant reminder of the financial world we'd both been raised in. "There's more," Michael continued, pulling out his secure phone. "I recorded everything. Every meeting, every offer, every threat. Victoria, she's been planning this takeover for months, even before Dad's diagnosis." He pressed play. Victoria's voice filled my office. "Once the old man's out, we'll contest the corporate restructuring using your testimony about his mental state and James' long-standing position in the company. We'll get controlling interest. That Sarah won't know what hit her." My hands clenched into fists. "When was this?" "2 months ago." "But wait, there's worse." He fast-forwarded the recording. James' voice now. "We'll liquidate the non-performing assets, strip the company for parts. Sarah can go back to her entry-level analysis position. She never deserved the executive track anyway." "Turn it off," I whispered. "Sarah's apartment, near midnight." Michael complied, then pulled out one final document. "This is why I came tonight. Victoria didn't just want the company, Sarah. She wanted revenge. On you." "Revenge? For what?" "For making James look incompetent. For exposing his trading losses. He paused. "For making him face consequences when you caught their insider trading scheme." The memory hit me like a market crash. Walking into the trading floor, finding their unauthorized positions, Victoria's triumphant smile as my marriage imploded alongside their illegal trades. "She was our CFO for 3 years," Michael continued. "She planned everything. Worked her way up, into James' confidence, into Dad's executive circle. This document proves she started embezzling from Harrison Investments 6 months before you discovered their trading scheme. I grabbed the paper, my analyst's eyes scanning the transaction records and account numbers. Dad knew about this, found out right before his diagnosis. He was building a case with the SEC, but the cancer. Michael's voice trailed off. That's when he started planning this instead, I said. Sometimes the best market correction needs a different approach. The contingency plan, Michael murmured. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be brutal. They think they've got it all figured out. Victoria's even hired a PR team to document their historic acquisition of Harrison Investments. Despite everything, I laughed. She hired cameras to record her own downfall. Dad would have appreciated the market irony. Michael smiled, a genuine one this time. Listen, I know I can't fix the past 3 years with one night of revelations, but I want you to know I'm here now. Whatever happens tomorrow, I've got your back. I walked to my balcony, looking out at my small rose garden, silvered by city lights. Remember when we were kids and Dad caught us fighting over that first stock picking contest? Sarah's apartment, late night. Michael joined me at the balcony. He made us analyze each other's portfolios. Said we needed to learn to see value clearly. I turned to face my brother. I see clearly now, Michael. I see what Dad was trying to teach us, even at the end. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. That sometimes the biggest market win isn't in aggressive trading. It's in letting your opponents overextend themselves. My phone chimed with a WhatsApp message from Emma. Final preparations complete for tomorrow. The SEC representatives are confirmed. The city pulsed below us, a reminder that tomorrow was getting closer with each tick of the market clock. You should get some rest, Michael said, gathering his evidence. Tomorrow's going to be one hell of a shareholders' meeting. As I watched him leave, I touched the glass of my balcony door, cool and solid under my fingers. Dad had always loved high-rise views, said they were the eyes of the financial world, watching over his legacy. Tomorrow they would witness justice served, exactly the way he had planned it. The next morning, Harrison Investments headquarters. The morning of the will reading dawned bright and clear. I sat in Dad's executive office, watching Emma arrange papers on his massive mahogany desk, while camera equipment was set up around the room. Victoria's PR team is here, Michael announced, slipping through the door. You should see her out there, practicing her acceptance speech for the board. Everything ready? I asked Emma. She potted her briefcase. All set. The contingency plan is sealed in this envelope, along with copies of all the evidence. Once they accept the initial terms. A commotion in the hallway cut her off. Victoria's voice carried through the door, high and excited. This is where we'll put the new trading floor. The old layout is so inefficient. Places everyone. Harrison Investments boardroom. Let the show begin, Emma muttered, straightening her suit jacket as Victoria swept in wearing a black designer dress that probably cost more than a junior analyst's annual bonus. James followed, looking uncomfortable in his bespoke suit. The PR team trailed behind them, adjusting lights and checking camera angles. Sarah. James nodded stiffly. It was the first time he'd addressed me directly since the insider trading scandal. Let us begin, Emma announced, taking her place behind Dad's desk. As Robert's general counsel, I'll be reading his last will and testament, along with any additional corporate governance documents he prepared before his passing. Victoria practically bounced in her leather chair. We're ready. The initial reading went exactly as Emma had warned me. Dad's estate and company shares were to be divided. 60% to me, 40% to James and Victoria. I knew it, Victoria squealed, grabbing James' arm. Robert trusted our vision for the company. However, Emma continued, her voice cutting through Victoria's celebration. There is a contingency clause to the corporate restructuring, added 3 days before Robert's death. Victoria's smile faltered. A what? A governance modification, James explained, suddenly looking nervous. His years in corporate law showing through. What kind of? Of modification. Emma broke the seal on the envelope. The acceptance of any controlling interest under this will is contingent upon a full investigation into certain financial irregularities discovered in the months preceding Robert's death. The boardroom went silent. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. What irregularities? Victoria's voice had lost its triumphant edge. Perhaps these will explain, Emma said, sliding the photos across the polished mahogany. Or this USB drive, containing footage of attempted bribery. Or these transaction records, showing systematic embezzlement from Harrison Investments. Harrison Investments boardroom. Minutes later, James grabbed one of the financial records, his face draining of color. Where did you get these? Dad had quite the audit trail. Michael spoke up from his corner. Including recordings of you both planning to contest the company restructuring based on false testimony about his mental state. Victoria stood up so fast her executive chair toppled backward. Turn those cameras off. Now. Oh no, I said, standing to face her. The cameras stay. You wanted to document this historic acquisition, remember? You can't do this. She hissed. James, tell them they can't do this. But James was still staring at the evidence, particularly one document showing him entering a competitor's office with confidential trading algorithms. The contingency clause is quite clear, Emma continued, professional as ever. Any attempt to claim controlling interest automatically triggers the release of all this evidence to the SEC and proper authorities. The choice is yours. Choice? Victoria laughed hysterically. What choice? You've trapped us. No, I corrected her, channeling Dad's calm during market volatility. You trapped yourselves. Every scheme, every fraudulent trade, every attempt to steal what wasn't yours. It all led to this moment. This is your fault. She whirled on Michael. You were supposed to help us. Michael adjusted his tie. I did help. Just not you. James, she pleaded. Do something. But James was already standing, straightening his collar with shaking hands. It's over, Victoria. We've lost. The hell it is. I won't let that. That is my daughter. Dad's voice filled the boardroom. Everyone froze as Emma played the video file. Dad's face appeared on the boardroom screen, thin but determined, recorded just days before his death. And if you're watching this, it means you've shown your true colors, just as I knew you would. The market always reveals the truth about value, and you've just proven you have none. Harrison Investments boardroom. The aftermath. Victoria's mascara ran in black streaks as she backed toward the boardroom door. This isn't over. Actually, Emma said, it is. The SEC agents are waiting in the lobby to discuss the evidence of securities fraud. I'd suggest cooperating. It might help with sentencing. As Victoria and James were led away, the cameras still rolling, I felt Dad's presence in every corner of his executive office. He'd orchestrated it all, not just to protect his company, but to teach one final lesson about corporate integrity and patience. Well, Michael said into the silence, I guess those cameras did catch their historic market moment after all. The media circus that followed was exactly what Victoria had wanted, just not in the way she'd planned. By evening, financial news networks lined the street, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with calls from reporters. You need to see this, Michael said, turning up the volume on Dad's old Bloomberg terminal in the study. Victoria's arrest was playing on every channel, her mascara-streaked face, a stark contrast to her designer dress, as SEC agents led her to their vehicle. The investigation into Harrison Investments has uncovered multiple instances of securities fraud, the reporter's voice droned on. Turn it off, I said, rubbing my temples. I can't watch anymore. Emma burst through the door, waving her phone. It gets better. The U.S. attorney just called. They found offshore accounts, shell corporations, everything. Victoria wasn't just stealing from your father's company. She was running a sophisticated financial fraud scheme. And James? I asked, not sure why I still cared about my ex-husband's fate. Cooperating fully with the authorities, Michael replied. Turns out he's not so loyal when facing serious federal charges. Harrison Investments, Executive Office, evening. A sharp knock at the office door made us all jump. A federal investigator entered, looking apologetic. Ms. Harrison, we need to discuss some additional evidence we've uncovered. More? I gestured for him to sit. What now? We found documents in Ms. Pierce's private server suggesting this wasn't her first financial scheme. There are at least 3 other cases of her targeting financial institutions, though she never succeeded on this scale before. Emma leaned forward, lawyer instincts engaged. Other companies? Yes. She would typically work her way up through corporate ranks, then orchestrate situations to gain access to trading systems. The investigator pulled out a file. Sound familiar? The CFO position, I whispered. It wasn't random. No, it wasn't. She specifically targeted your ex-husband because of his position in Harrison Investments. The affair was just her entry strategy. My stomach turned. 3 years of self-doubt about my failed marriage suddenly shifted perspective. There's something else, the investigator continued. We found this in her encrypted files. It appears to be a detailed plan for after she gained control of the company. He handed me a document that made my blood run cold. Detailed notes about accidents that could befall me after the transfer of power, plans to frame Michael for securities fraud, even strategies to dismantle Dad's carefully built company piece by piece. She would have destroyed everything, I said flatly. She never would have gotten the chance, Michael growled, gripping his armrest. The investigator nodded grimly. This evidence upgrades the charges significantly. Combined with the securities fraud and attempted bribery, she's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Harrison Investments, Executive Office, late evening. After the investigator left, we sat in stunned silence until Emma's phone buzzed again. It's my contact at the U.S. Attorney's office, she said, reading the message. James just finished his statement. He's admitted to everything, including helping Victoria access confidential trading algorithms before Dad's death. Did he know? I had to ask about her plans for the company. No, Michael answered, scanning the documents. According to this, she kept that part to herself. Probably knew he wouldn't have the stomach for corporate sabotage. A thought struck me. Dad knew, didn't he? That's why he put all this in motion. Emma nodded slowly. He suspected. That's why he hired the forensic accountants, why he documented everything. He wasn't just protecting his legacy. He was protecting the entire company, and you. I walked to the window of Dad's office, looking out at the Manhattan skyline, now swarming with news vans. The lights of the financial district still blazed, oblivious to the drama that had just unfolded in one of its towers. We should release a statement, Michael suggested. Control the narrative before Victoria's lawyers try to spin this. Already drafted. Emma pulled out her laptop. A simple statement about cooperating with federal authorities and requesting privacy during this transition period. Professional, measured. Everything Victoria wasn't. Dad would like that, I said, managing a small smile. There's one more thing, Michael said, pulling an envelope from his jacket. I found this in Dad's private safe. It's marked after justice is served. Harrison Investments Executive Office Night. My hands shook as I opened the envelope, recognizing Dad's distinctive handwriting once again. My dear Sarah, if you're reading this, then the truth has finally come to light. Don't let this experience harden your market instincts. The company still needs nurturing, and leadership still needs vision. I didn't set this trap just for justice. I did it so you could be free. Free from doubt, free from fear, and free to lead with integrity. Remember what I taught you about investment horizons. The best growth comes after a market correction. The company is yours now, to guide into the future. And don't forget to tend to those roses. Some things are worth more than any market valuation. Love always, Dad. Outside, financial reporters continued their live broadcasts, telling the world about the scandal, the arrests, the corporate fraud. But inside Dad's office, surrounded by the evidence of his foresight and wisdom, I finally felt something I hadn't experienced since discovering James and Victoria's betrayal 3 years ago. Peace. So, Michael said, breaking the silence. What now? I looked out at the city lights, then at my brother and best friend. Now we rebuild. Not just the company, everything. To Dad, Michael raised his coffee mug. To integrity, Emma added, raising hers. I picked up my own mug, thinking of market cycles and garden seasons, of endings and beginnings, of growth and renewal. Through the window, the city glowed in the night, each light a reminder of Dad's belief that true value can emerge even from the darkest market corrections. He'd given me more than justice. He'd given me back my future, one calculated step at a time. That's exactly what my termination letter stated. A $1 digital gift card, delivered through a sterile Zoom meeting. After 30 years of dedication to Wilson Technologies, this was my severance, a digital pittance that felt more like a slap in the face than a goodbye. James Wilson, our 35-year-old CEO with his Harvard MBA and perfectly curated LinkedIn profile, smirked at me through the screen, treating my decades of service like a footnote in his efficiency optimization plan. I kept my expression neutral, even as my fingers tightened around my mouse. Understood, I replied, my voice steady despite the anger building inside. After the Zoom call ended, I opened my development environment. There, in the heart of the system I'd built from the ground up, I began the process of wiping everything clean. Some might call it sabotage, but I was simply following the termination protocol I'd written myself years ago. My final task, as outlined in my contract. Within minutes, the Slack channels erupted with panic. Is anyone else getting server errors? I can't access the cloud storage. The deployment pipeline is down. Messages cascaded across my screen in real time. Then came the frantic video call from James, his composed MBA demeanor cracking. Michael, what's happening to our systems? He demanded, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. I met his gaze through the webcam, feeling a calm I hadn't experienced in months. This was the moment when my calculated response to the company's next-gen leadership truly began. My name is Michael Chen. I'm 50 years old, and I've devoted my entire career to Wilson Technologies. I joined after dropping out of community college, making me the longest-serving employee in a culture where 2-year tenures are considered loyal. As the chief systems architect, I've built and maintained the technological backbone of this company. While younger developers came and went with their boot camp certificates and startup dreams, I stayed, quietly evolving our infrastructure. The work was challenging, but it gave me purpose. Even as I balanced the growing needs of the company with caring for my aging parents, I took pride in what I'd built. Alex, one of my most promising team members, approached my desk with concern etched on his face. Hey, Michael, I think there's something weird going on with the deployment pipeline, he said, gesturing to his MacBook. I leaned over to look at his screen, the blue light reflecting off my glasses. There's an issue with the containerization setup. Let me show you how to fix it, I explained, typing in the correction with practiced ease. Alex's eyes lit up with understanding. Thanks, Michael. We'd be lost without your expertise here. I gave him a small smile, remembering my own early days of coding. Soon enough, you'll be the one handling all of this. I'm counting on you to keep things running. Alex shook his head vigorously, his AirPods nearly falling out. No way. You are irreplaceable. Why are you even talking like that? Well, I said, closing his laptop gently. I've been thinking about the future lately. Things are changing around here. Being in his late 20s, Alex couldn't see the writing on the wall. The subtle shifts in management's attitudes, the new metrics being tracked, the whispered conversations about digital transformation. Back then, I still believed in the company's future. But everything changed when Robert Wilson, our founder and CEO, was suddenly hospitalized with a severe illness. His condition deteriorated rapidly, leaving no chance for a gradual transition. In his absence, his son James, fresh from his Silicon Valley consulting stint, stepped in as CEO. James launched his tenure with a TED Talk-style company meeting, live streamed to all employees. This is a pivotal moment for Wilson Technologies, he declared, standing on the stage in his perfectly tailored suit. We need to embrace disruption and agile methodologies. It's time to optimize our human capital and leverage cutting-edge solutions. His buzzword-laden speech initially energized the younger employees. James had that quintessential tech CEO charisma, the kind that plays well on social media. Having briefly worked with him during his listening tour of various departments, I wanted to believe he could carry his father's vision forward. But my optimism was misplaced. Within weeks of taking the helm, James launched what he called a strategic restructuring initiative. In reality, it was a brutal efficiency drive that turned our collaborative workspace into a pressure cooker. Teams were reorganized, seemingly at random, with Slack notifications about role changes becoming a daily occurrence. But the most gut-wrenching aspect was his treatment of veteran employees. Instead of valuing their institutional knowledge, James saw them as legacy overhead. His solution wasn't direct termination. That would have been too obvious. Instead, he orchestrated a series of demotions disguised as role realignments. Experienced developers were suddenly transferred for growth opportunities to data entry positions. Senior project managers found themselves pivoting to junior support roles. Those who couldn't adapt to these humiliating changes eventually resigned, their farewell messages in Slack becoming increasingly frequent. I tried to rationalize it at first. If the younger employees he was promoting had shown exceptional talent, I might have understood. But their GitHub commits told a different story. The truly skilled young developers, frustrated by the obvious favoritism, updated their LinkedIn profiles and left for competitors. Those who remained were mostly James' loyal circle, former consulting colleagues and business school connections who could talk about synergy but couldn't debug a simple production issue. Today, I watched another notification pop up in our team channel. Another resignation. This time, it was David, a brilliant back-end developer I'd mentored for over a decade. As he packed up his desk, methodically disconnecting his multiple monitors, he gave me a weak smile. "Thanks for everything, Michael," he said, his mechanical keyboard the last item to go into his backpack. I forced myself to maintain composure. "But why? Your microservices architecture is the backbone of our new platform." He let out a heavy sigh, glancing at the culture of innovation poster James had recently plastered across the office. "I'm tired of fighting against digital transformation initiatives that just break what's already working. It's not worth the mental toll anymore." Then he looked at me intently and added, "But Michael, you're the only one who truly understands our system's architecture. They can't function without you." As he attempted a reassuring grin, I felt my throat tighten. I wanted to give him a proper send-off, but all I could do was watch as he badged out for the last time, another victim of our new, optimized culture. How many farewell messages had I seen in our Slack channels by now? You might expect such a mass exodus would trigger some kind of resistance, but the #general channel remained filled with forced enthusiasm and corporate emoji reactions. One by one, our most talented engineers left, leaving behind those too overworked to update their resumes, too resigned to fight back, or too loyal to James' vision. I was among the stubborn ones, still believing in the infrastructure I'd built. But the company's decline was unmistakable. The signs were everywhere: failed deployments, increasing customer complaints, and even James himself showing signs of strain. "This is just a temporary adjustment period," I overheard him telling his inner circle during a virtual happy hour. "We're in the classic J-curve of transformation. The hockey stick growth is coming." I couldn't believe the arrogance in his voice, especially when his audience of MBA peers responded with a chorus of, "That's so insightful, James." It was clear he wouldn't acknowledge his mistakes. Frustrated, I returned to my monitor array in the systems management room, where Alex was waiting. "Michael, heads up," he said, his face concerned. "James is doing a systems audit today. He's been poking around different departments with his efficiency consultants." My stomach tightened. "What?" Alex continued, lowering his voice in our open office. "Word is, after all the team optimizations, he's now looking to cut costs in our infrastructure. They're talking about moving everything to some trendy new cloud platform." I sighed, minimizing my terminal windows. "There's not much we can do, Alex. James has a pattern of making cuts where they hurt most. His enthusiasm for disruption is admirable, but his understanding of our technical debt is limited." Shortly after, James arrived with his entourage of consultants, all carrying identical MacBooks with startup stickers. He scanned our monitors with the same expression he used when evaluating the office coffee machine for cost cutting. "Isn't the AC working a bit too hard in here?" he asked abruptly, adjusting his Patagonia vest. "Our carbon footprint metrics are concerning." I kept my voice professional. "The server room requirements are quite specific for thermal management." He barely acknowledged my response, turning instead to Alex. "Tell me about our cloud migration readiness." It was telling that he completely ignored my role as the principal architect. After walking around the server room, taking photos with his iPhone, James finally turned to me. "Michael, right?" he said, as if we hadn't worked in the same company for years. "Yes, Mr. Wilson," I replied, noticing him flinch slightly at his father's surname. "You've been here. How long?" 30 years, I answered, my AWS certification badges displayed prominently on my desk. 30 years, he mused, scrolling through something on his tablet. "I'm looking at your compensation package. It's significantly above market rate." Was that my father's decision? "Yes, it was," I replied firmly, feeling my jaw tighten. He glanced at Alex's workstation. "And Alex here is managing deployments now too, correct?" "He's learning the systems," I said carefully, not liking where this was heading. This was my first direct conversation with our new CEO, and despite my better judgment, I decided to speak up. "Mr. Wilson, I strongly advise against any rushed infrastructure changes. With all the recent team restructuring, our system stability is crucial. Moving to a new cloud architecture now would significantly impact our reliability." James' perfectly groomed eyebrows furrowed. "That's not your decision to make," he snapped, his carefully cultivated CO persona cracking. I fell silent, surprised by his sudden hostility. His expression was something I'd never seen in our virtual meetings. Raw contempt. "A systems architect questioning the CEO's technical strategy?" he sneered. "Know your place in the org chart." "I apologize," I said quietly, thinking of the system I'd built while he was still in high school. He smirked, adjusting his Apple Watch. "You're the architect, right, Michael? Don't worry, I'll think about our infrastructure strategy thoroughly." His tone dripped with condescension as he guided his consultants out. Once they were gone, Alex let out a long breath. "That was intense, Michael, but you handled it well." I shook my head, closing my terminal windows. "Sorry, Alex. I didn't mean to create tension." "No, you're right," he said quickly. "Your concerns are valid, but James, he's not interested in technical reality." "What's his real agenda?" Nothing good for the engineering team, I replied, starting to back up certain critical configuration files. Alex and I sat in silence. The hum of servers our only companion. After that interaction, we knew we needed to have a serious discussion about contingency plans. The writing on the wall was now impossible to ignore. A calendar invite appeared in my inbox. Strategic Resource Discussion with James Wilson. When I joined the Zoom call, James' practiced smile filled my screen. "Michael, thank you for your contributions over the years," he began, his background a carefully curated bookshelf. Then came the words I'd been expecting. "We've decided to terminate your position." I stared at his pixelated image. "Could you repeat that?" "It's not personal," he said with that same polished smile. "It's strategic realignment." He shared his screen to show a PDF document. "Your severance package." The file opened to reveal a $1 digital gift card to a major coffee chain. Something about the digital delivery made it even more insulting than a physical dime would have been. Why not a proper bank transfer? "Mr. Wilson, this isn't appropriate, even as some kind of tech-savvy joke," I said, my voice tight with controlled anger. "Oh, it's no joke," he replied smoothly. He shared another screen. A scanned document I recognized immediately. It was my employment contract from 30 years ago when I first joined the company. James zoomed in on a specific section. "Take a look here," he said with obvious satisfaction. "Your severance is listed as a digital compensation equivalent to $1. My eyes widened. Next to the standard severance clause, someone had clearly edited the digital document to include this absurd provision. The font didn't even match the original text. James highlighted the modified section with his cursor. "See? I didn't add this. It was already there in our digital records." "Interesting, isn't it? And you digitally signed this contract, didn't you?" I started to object, but he cut me off. "This is all according to protocol," he said firmly. "Clean up your Git repositories and transfer access. It's all in the termination checklist I just shared." His expression made it clear that any argument would be futile. I realized I'd probably been targeted ever since that systems audit. I was exactly the type of legacy employee he wanted to eliminate, someone who represented the old guard he so despised. The only reason I'd lasted this long was my control over the core infrastructure. But after seeing Alex handle deployments, he must have decided it was time to optimize his human resources. My honest feedback during the audit probably just accelerated his timeline. What a perfect example of modern tech leadership, I thought bitterly. A company run by metrics and buzzwords had no future. As I closed the Zoom window, memories of every farewell Slack message I'd read over the past months flashed through my mind. Their frustration, their helplessness. It all made perfect sense now. I forced myself to type "acknowledged" in our final chat, then closed my MacBook. My next stop was my Ide. Alex was already online, waiting in our private Slack channel, just as we had planned. "It's time," I messaged him. Alex's response was immediate, standing by. We began our work silently, our cursors moving in practiced coordination. Dismantling a system is far simpler than building one, and we had everything containerized for easy removal. Within minutes, the company's Slack channels exploded with notifications. Is the bus down? I can't access anything. The CI/CD pipeline is completely broken. All our microservices are returning errors. The chaos spread rapidly across every department. Through the office's glass walls, I could see people frantically typing on their keyboards, confused by the sudden technical apocalypse. James' emergency video call came through exactly as we predicted. His face appeared on my screen, pale and panicked. "Michael," he shouted, his carefully maintained CEO composure shattered. "What have you done?" I looked directly into my webcam, feeling surprisingly calm. "I followed the termination protocol exactly as specified, Mr. Wilson," I replied. "What protocol?" "Your access credentials?" "Why is our entire infrastructure offline?" "Since the system architecture was personally licensed, I've removed it according to the termination agreement. I'm simply cleaning up my contributions to the company," I explained. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, his voice cracking. I pulled up the same contract he had so proudly displayed earlier, sharing my screen. "It's documented right here," I said, zooming in on a specific clause. "The core system architecture remains under personal license, with the salary structure covering ongoing usage rights. The agreement states that all licensed components will be returned upon termination. This has been in our Git repository for 3 decades." James stared at his screen, his startup founder confidence crumbling. "This is absurd. You can't just delete our entire cloud infrastructure because one architect leaves." I resisted pointing out the irony of a $1 digital gift card severance. Instead, I maintained my professional tone. "If you rescind my termination, I'll restore the system and return your coffee gift card." He slammed his desk, his virtual background flickering. "Alex, restore everything from our backups immediately." Alex, still on the call, hesitated before responding. "Yes, sir. I'll start the recovery process. But with our current architecture, it might take some time. I don't care how long it takes. Just fix it," James snapped, his voice distorting through his AirPods. After exchanging a knowing look with Alex through our private Slack channel, I decided it was time to log off. I closed my development environment one last time, leaving behind the virtual workspace where I had spent so much of my career. My mind was clear, focused on the next phase of our plan. I was reviewing some personal projects when my phone lit up with Wilson Technologies' number. James's voice came through, sounding exhausted. "Michael," he said, dropping the CEO tone, "we're in serious trouble. Alex can't restore the systems, and we've lost a week of productivity, including all our cloud services." I could hear the desperation he was trying to hide. His Silicon Valley confidence had evaporated. "How is that my concern?" I asked, suppressing a smile. "Let's make a deal. We'll buy the system architecture. $100,000. No, $200,000. I couldn't help but laugh. "Mr. Wilson, you clearly don't understand enterprise software valuation. That wouldn't cover a month of development costs." "What do you mean?" "Then what's your price?" $1 million, I stated flatly. "1 million?" His voice cracked like a failing deployment. "Yes, 1 million, I confirmed, checking my system monitoring dashboard. "And honestly, you're getting a bargain. The entire infrastructure, including all microservices and deployment pipelines, is worth far more." "This is extortion," he exploded. That's more than your entire severance package, which, as you recently demonstrated, was a $1 gift card, I replied dryly. Seeing he wasn't grasping the situation, I dropped my professional demeanor. Mr. Wilson, I'm serious. Without that $1 million, you won't get the system back, and I won't help Alex restore it either. There was a long pause, filled only with the sound of his agitated breathing. When he spoke again, his voice was ice cold. Absolutely not. I refuse to give in to this ridiculous demand. How dare you ask for such an outrageous sum after all this company has done for you? The call ended abruptly. I set down my phone, feeling more resigned than triumphant. His response confirmed everything about his inability to lead. I opened my laptop and began composing an email that would set the final phase of our plan in motion. Shouting echoed through the office's Zoom call. James, now the former CEO, was virtually facing his father, Robert Wilson. Though Robert wasn't fully recovered, his commanding presence filled even the video call. From my own home office, I watched the meeting unfold with a mixture of vindication and sadness. "Why am I being removed as CEO?" James demanded, his virtual background glitching with his movements. "I'm not removing you," Robert replied firmly from his home recovery room. "I'm demoting you to a regular developer position. You need to learn this business from the ground up." James looked appalled, his perfectly curated LinkedIn profile about to need serious updating. Me, a former CEO, coding like a boot camp graduate. This is humiliating. Robert's voice cut through the video call, making James visibly flinch. "Humiliating?" Robert thundered, his recovery room setup somehow amplifying his authority. "You should be ashamed of the chaos you've created. You nearly destroyed our entire technical infrastructure." I remained silent in my corner of the screen as Robert continued his virtual reprimand. "I was foolish to trust your quarterly reports," he continued. "I explicitly warned you not to interfere with our core technical team, yet you forced out our most valuable engineers, including Michael." At the mention of my name, James' glare shifted to my video feed. He knew I had played a pivotal role in exposing his mismanagement. His reckless decisions had become intolerable, and I had felt compelled to bring the situation to Robert's attention. Despite feeling guilty about disturbing his recovery, I had sent him a detailed analysis of the company's technical degradation under James' leadership. Robert, who had been relying solely on James' carefully curated reports, was shocked when he saw my documentation of the actual system stability metrics. Realizing the company's infrastructure was at risk of collapse, he had decided to return to leadership despite his ongoing recovery. When Robert had told me, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Michael. My son's optimization would have destroyed everything we built," I knew we had made the right choice. Alex and I had carefully orchestrated our response. We recognized that if James's strategic realignment continued, the entire engineering department would eventually be outsourced. So we demonstrated exactly how critical our internal infrastructure was by making it temporarily inaccessible. It was the only form of resistance available to our engineering team. As expected, the chaos that followed the system shutdown was massive. James couldn't handle the technical crisis, and even his MBA network began questioning his leadership. For the first time, our remaining engineers spoke up openly on Slack. "We need Robert back. This digital transformation is destroying our platform." The criticism grew until James faced the board over video conference. Their assessment was brutal but accurate. They condemned his treatment of senior engineers, his mishandling of technical layoffs, and the catastrophic system failure. During the virtual board meeting, the topic of my system architecture came up repeatedly. One board member, a veteran CTO, pointed out, $1 million for a fully developed, production-tested infrastructure is an incredible bargain. Why didn't our CEO secure this asset? Building a new system from scratch would cost tens of millions and years of development time. Hearing their technical assessment validated the countless nights I'd spent building and maintaining our platform. After the board's decision, James sat in his home office, his perfectly crafted CEO image now visibly crumbling during the video call with Robert. "I'm sorry," he muttered reluctantly, glancing at my video feed. His apology rang hollow, his resentment still evident in every pixel. I kept my response professional, acknowledged. Robert, watching our interaction through the call, turned to me. "Michael, I truly apologize for this entire situation. Would you consider returning to the company?" His sincerity was clear, even through the digital medium. I smiled into my webcam. "Yes, I'll come back, as long as you're leading the technical vision." "Thank you," Robert replied, visible relief spreading across his face. Then he asked, should we process the $1 million payment for the system architecture? "That won't be necessary," I responded. "The company has already given me something far more valuable, a chance to build something meaningful." Robert laughed warmly, and I joined in. James, in his video thumbnail, stared at us with confusion, his startup metrics and KPIs unable to quantify this moment. Later, in a private Slack channel, Alex messaged me, "I'm so glad everything worked out, Michael. I was really nervous about our backup malfunction. You went through quite an ordeal." "You took some risks too, Alex," I replied. "Those weekend emergency response sessions must have been stressful." Alex sent back a smiling emoji. "If it means protecting our engineering culture, I'd do it again." Besides, all I really did was run some very convincing error simulations. I laughed and typed back, "Your system recovery failure performance was perfect. It was key to this whole resolution." Alex sent another message. James was unbelievable, though. A $1 digital gift card and doctored contract metadata. That's next level toxic. I paused before typing my response. "Actually, there's something you should know. That digital contract modification, I was the one who added it." "What?" Alex's surprised emoji popped up instantly. "What do you mean?" I smiled at my screen, ready to share a story I'd never told anyone. "Let me tell you about my younger self and how I ended up here. Back in high school, I was the quintessential computer nerd. I couldn't fit into the typical social circles, so I retreated into code. My room became my sanctuary, filled with monitors and the constant hum of computers. I spent countless hours developing my own programs, building systems from scratch. One day, Robert Wilson, who knew my father from the local tech community, discovered my personal projects. He saw potential in my obsession with systems architecture and offered me a position at his growing startup. For someone who had spent years hiding behind screens, his belief in my abilities was life-changing. He didn't just offer me a job, He offered me a salary that was unprecedented for a community college dropout. Robert's faith gave me a chance to step out of my self-imposed isolation. I still remember the day he proposed that salary. Even as an inexperienced developer, I knew the figure was far above entry level. I can't accept this much, I told him honestly. But Robert shook his head. This is actually a modest offer, he replied. We're still a startup, and this is all we can offer right now. But as we grow, your compensation will reflect the value of your contributions. Your system architecture skills are worth far more. His words stunned me. In a moment of youthful idealism, I opened the digital contract he'd shared and added a small clause. I inserted digital compensation equivalent to $1 next to the standard severance terms. Robert's eyebrows shot up when he saw the modification. $1? He asked, puzzled. Yes, I replied earnestly. I already feel guilty accepting such a generous starting salary. I don't need additional compensation when I leave. This feels fair to me. Contract discussion. Though he must have found my naive idealism amusing, Robert responded with characteristic thoughtfulness. Let's approach this differently, he suggested, sharing his screen to modify the contract. We'll classify this system architecture as a licensed asset. I'll document that in your employment agreement and prepare the proper licensing documentation later. Upon departure, you retain rights to the system. If we need to maintain usage, we'll negotiate fair compensation. Wouldn't that be a more appropriate severance structure? I nodded, appreciating the elegant solution. You saw right through my amateur contract modification, I admitted. Robert chuckled warmly. You have excellent technical instincts, he said. But business agreements require a different kind of architecture. That moment cemented my loyalty to Robert's leadership. He had recognized my potential when I was at my lowest, and his guidance had helped me emerge from my shell. When I finished recounting this story, Alex was silent for a moment before responding. So that's the real history between you and the Wilsons, he typed, followed by a thoughtful emoji. Yes, I replied. I never imagined that contract modification would resurface because of James. James' tenure at Wilson Technologies ended shortly after his demotion. Unable to handle the transition from CEO to developer, he resigned to launch a startup with his business school network. However, Robert later mentioned that James' venture was struggling to gain traction in the competitive SaaS market. Even after returning to full-time leadership, Robert faced significant challenges rebuilding our technical foundation. I hoped James wouldn't disrupt his father's recovery with requests for startup funding. He needs to learn the realities of building something sustainable, Robert said firmly during one of our architecture review meetings. It's like pushing a fledgling developer to handle production issues. Sometimes failure is the best teacher. I doubted James would ever admit needing help, even if his startup metrics turned red. His pride had driven him to resign, and that same pride would prevent him from acknowledging his mistakes. With Robert back at the helm, Wilson Technologies gradually regained its technical excellence. Alex and I dedicated ourselves to implementing a more robust, scalable architecture. The foundation finally felt solid again. One afternoon, I received a calendar invite for a private meeting in Robert's virtual office. "What's on your mind?" I asked, curious about the unexpected call. "I want you to join the executive team," he said directly, "as our new Chief Technology Officer." I stared at my screen, momentarily frozen. CTO? Yes, he said, his voice carrying the same confidence he'd shown 30 years ago. I want you to help shape our technical vision at the highest level. We need your architecture expertise in the C-suite. I hope you'll partner with me in rebuilding this company's future. The weight of the role struck me. Chief Technology Officer. It meant overseeing our entire technical strategy, guiding our engineering culture, and standing as Robert's key technical advisor. Are you sure I'm qualified for this position? I asked hesitantly. Robert's expression softened, as it always did when he sensed my self-doubt. The next generation is ready, aren't they? He said, referring to Alex and the engineering team we'd been mentoring. I nodded, thinking of the technical leadership I'd seen emerging. Yes, Alex and the team are more than capable now. That's not a concern. Then let's begin, Robert said with a smile. We need to prepare for the board meeting and draft your executive employment agreement. His emphasis on the word agreement made us both laugh. Don't worry, I won't add any $1 clauses to this one, I joked. I'd hope not, he replied warmly. The atmosphere in our virtual meeting felt charged with possibility, and for the first time in months, I felt genuinely excited about the future. As I closed the video call, a thought occurred to me. Could I, as CTO, help rebuild the engineering team we'd lost? The idea filled me with purpose. I was grateful I'd fought to preserve our technical integrity, even when facing seemingly impossible odds. This company had given me more than just a career. It had provided a platform to create, to mentor, and to grow beyond my introverted beginnings. It had become more than just an employer. It was a community that connected past and present engineers, building toward a shared vision. As I opened my development environment to start sketching out our new technical roadmap, I felt energized by the challenges ahead. For the first time in my career, I wasn't just maintaining systems. I was helping shape the future of technology itself.